Hi, I'm actor presenter Adam Pearson, and today I'm going to be talking about disability representation in the media, where we come from, and where we are now. I think Todd Browning's 1930s film Freaks is solid representation of disability because it's actual disabled actors and performers being allowed to act and perform. The film got thoroughly butchered in the edit, but I don't think you can put any of that on the actors or on Todd Browning. And for such an early film that came out sort of pre-code, they didn't have editorial policy in American film until 1955. It holds up remarkably well. It's still one of my favorite sort of like old school disability, like exploitation films. That's a word I don't like, exploitation. That gets thrown around a lot with disability in the media. The idea that because I've been cast in something, I'm somehow being exploited. I'm like, well, exploited is just another word to use. And also, in order to be exploited in the way that you mean, I need to feel exploited in the way that you mean. And I don't. I'm getting paid. That's like damn sure. But yeah, I find when people say, oh, you're exploiting people, it's such a disempowering word to use because it implies that I don't have like autonomy or knowledge of what I'm doing. And again, I've got no doubt it's being used with the greatest of intention. It's just being inadvertently counterproductive. And it isn't the helping hand that you think it is.
Without stating the obvious, what's so important about disabled actors being able to play those roles?
I think what we've been terming for a while now as cripping up is often sort of a lazy Oscar grab. And if we look at the history of it, and I'm not slagging off these films, I think all art needs to be looked at through like the lens or prism of time in which it was created. And I get very nervous when we start cancelling films and cancelling art, because I think they serve as historical waymarkers for how far we've come. So I'm not trying to cancel any films or any actors. What I am submitting to you is in 2025, they'd maybe get different actors and they would be made differently now. Daniel Day-Lewis, My Left Foot, 1989. Even the director of that has said they would make very different casting choices now. And that's often a film people reference. One journalist in particular references a lot as an example of how anyone should play anything. Well, then I present you Laurence Olivier, Othello, 1965. Oh, did I make this awkward? Fair enough. But also, if they're going to reference a film to endorse cripping up, don't make it one that predates legal equality for disabled people in America, which didn't happen until 1990. Like, that's a completely ridiculous kind of proposition to be making. I think Forrest Gump, which is one of my favourite films, by the way. I should say that off the bat for sort of like balance and clarity. I think that would get made differently now. I also think the language would be different now. But then when you're talking about historical disability, which is what Forrest Gump is, it's like a historical piece. That's sort of like the language they used. And I don't think we should wrap history in cotton wool for the sake of people's feelings either. And that goes to sort of like all history. I think films like Freaks would be very different if we bubble wrapped history. Django Unchained would be very different if we bubble wrapped history. Apocalypse Now would be very different if we bubble wrapped history. I think we need to honour history in films. One of the more egregious examples is Tiptoes with Gary Oldman. which is the most obvious Oscar grab I've ever seen in my life. Even in the trailer, they're like, and with a performance of a lifetime, Gary Oldman. And he's playing like a little person, a person with like restricted growth. But it's all just sort of like CGI'd. And I'm like, oh no, this is from like the early 2000s. We should know better. It's also sort of like taking roles away from disabled actors. Like the whole car crash that's in the Disney remake of Snow White, where they just removed the dwarves entirely and referred to them as like magical creatures and only had like one actual little person in the cast, an actor called Dylan Posture, who used to be Hornswoggle in WWE. Went, no, hang on, this is taking work away from me. What are we doing here? This is one step forward and two steps back. Like, what are we doing? And so then they made this decision to use CGI, which, again, well-meaning, but also I feel a step back. And it's what happens when you don't listen to the communities we're trying to serve. Like Sia's movie Sing, that was a car wreck. That's how not to do disability in cinema 101. Because when the trailer came out, I tweeted, this is a pretty bad trailer and pretty bad portrayal of autism. Maybe rethink this. And then I legit got into an argument with Sia on Twitter. It's like back and forth. She was like, oh, it's the trailer. Just wait till the film's out. And I was like, well, if the trailer doesn't represent the film, it's a bad trailer. Like, this is an advert for the film. It's going to be similar.
You're selling the film.
Yeah, exactly.
You're selling it in the wrong way.
Also, you've got loads of people from the community you're trying to represent telling you you've got this very, very wrong. What are the odds that they're all wrong and you're, like, right on this? And I know you've gone to, like, a point of no return now. So the quicker you can U-turn, the easier it's going to be. And no, it just kept going and going and going. And now it's, like, in single figures on Rotten Tomatoes.
There's some examples where it's done badly. Any more examples of where you think representation works incredibly well?
CODA was amazing. I'm so glad it got like an Oscar for that. I think we've got people like Marley Matlin who've been flying the flag incredibly well. She was the second disabled actor to win an Oscar for playing a disabled character in Children of a Lesser God in the 80s. And since then, they've just done like amazing work championing disabled actors. I think, not to blow my horn here, I think what me and Aaron have done with Change for Life and a Different Man have been real sort of conversation starters. You've got some very good actors like Lenny Rush in Am I Being Unreasonable, which is Daisy May Cooper's sitcom, which is remarkable. He's got more BAFTAs than Brad Pitt, technically. I think now that we're getting to the point where disability is just being organically woven into existing TV formats, like First Dates and the Traitors, that's always a good thing to see, and what I feel is the next organic step.
In the casting process, how is that done well? Like, it's presumably, again, stating the obvious, you're casting the person first.
Yeah, absolutely. The problem with having targets of this kind of thing is, once you have the target, you need to hit it. So by default, it becomes like box ticking. But also, I don't necessarily think box ticking's a bad thing, necessarily. I think it's been painted as a bad thing by like kind of right-wing news channels who are like, oh, it's just woke and diversity gone mad, innit? Oh, what's all this eye rolling? Woke rubbish. What about straight white men. When is it our time? Well, it's been your time for years, so maybe wind your neck in and know when it's not your turn to talk. And I think the media, particularly the public-funded media, should represent the public who fund it. Like, growing up, I didn't think disabled people were allowed in TV and films because I never saw them. And eventually, you've got to become the change you want to see. I can only moan about something for so long before I've got to grow up, put my big boy pants on, and like do it myself. And now I'm the guy who's like still doing it, but I'm acutely aware I need to be throwing down ladders for the younger guys to climb up so that they don't have to go through all like the nonsense that I had to.
What about in America, particularly in sort of, I suppose, the unscripted world as well?
Yeah, I really like Love on the Spectrum because it's about love and it incorporates the whole family, and it's sort of like just heartwarming and feel good.
I suppose that's a streamer play as well, isn't it? So kind of slightly different too in terms of who it's targeting.
Yeah, well, I think streaming is slowly but surely becoming ubiquitous. I think the days of like appointment TV viewing are long gone. Aside from obviously like kind of sport, I think the World Cup's always going to be appointment viewing. I think the Olympics will always be appointment viewing. And maybe Eurovision, I think, is appointment. Certainly in the Pearson household, it's appointment viewing.
Are there any more like digital creators or channels where you think representation is done right?
Yeah, I'll always champion the disabled creators who are sort of like putting themselves out there and planting their feet and giving it to them. I'm a huge fan of Aspie World, who does a lot of work around unpacking Asperger's and autism and what it is and how he manages on like a day-to-day life. It makes it really accessible and gives people freedom to sort of like take it in. He's super engaging in his comment section. And he's a really good example of giving people the freedom to get it wrong, to learn how to get it right. Paige, who's Flawless Effect on Instagram, has a birthmark on her face, does a lot of good work around sort of like makeup and raising awareness. Same with Nikki Lilly in the UK, who's like a makeup and fashion influencer. Dan Edge, who's a remarkably good access coordinator on a lot of like big shows.
I suppose in many ways, like representation isn't as much of an issue for them because they are being them, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's like being a creator has opened the doors to.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think we need to let disabled creators be unashamedly who they are. And it's like I always say, always be yourself, everyone else is taken. And those, and I get there's an element of maybe insecurity or imposter syndrome that comes with the territory of not just being a disabled creator, but being a creator in general. But no, I'm always trying to be the best Adam Pearson I can be because everyone else is taken.